state lines with hillbillies and guns. It's been a hell of a ride and a whole lot of fun. They gave me many names down there in Dixie, but the main one that stuck on me was whiskey.
And welcome to another episode of the Bourbon and Ballistics Podcast, the show where we talk a little about whiskey, a little about firearms, and a whole lot about everything in between. I'm your host, Joel Potter, and invite you to sit back, relax, and pour yourself a glass as we talk some bourbon and ballistics. On today's show, we have Mr. Captain John Wielkie. How are you, sir?
I'm good, thanks.
Good. We've been trying to make this happen for a while. I know that you and your family are insanely busy. So trying to hook up with you on a day, when you're off shift and not doing something,
right,
carting the kids around has been tough. So thank you for making it.
Yeah, absolutely.
We got a really interesting pour. We'll get into the story of the whiskey here in a little bit, but first we'll just get it poured up and kind of talk through it.
Sweet.
So we're doing the Broken Barrel cask strength. It's a 115 proof out of Kentucky distillery, and actually I was just telling John that the bottle shop is actually down near the motherland. Down in LA. So John is originally from Moore Park, right?
Yeah, I was born in Orange County and pretty much grew up in Simi Valley, so just below Moore Park there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And oddly enough, and this is kind of a fun fact, but so my wife is actually from Moore Park, and then her mom had sent over a newspaper article when she was a little girl. And in the same picture of all the little classmates, there was John.
Yep.
And so we didn't know that, but it was pretty funny that now here we both, they both live here in the small town in Douglas County. So that's pretty fun. So.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting.
So on this, interesting fun fact about that. I was reading about this whiskey today, and it was a lot to process. So I took some notes today, and I didn't want to mess it up because it's wild. So Broken Barrel whiskey is or was distilled and sourced from the Owensboro Distilling Company by 8th generation master distiller Jacob Call. So he is huge in the whiskey world and has worked for some of the bigger names and done some great work. So he's gone on to start Western Kentucky Distilling Company. So now he started his own distilling company, and I'm assuming when I started looking at the mash bills and stuff, some of the stuff he's producing, that's where this is coming from. I'm not 100% certain, but the mash bill on it's a 70% corn, 21% rye, and a 9% malted barley. So what they do is they put this in the barrels for 2 years or more, and then once they pour it from there, they do an oak bill, or they put it into a metal barrel, or it's like I think it's a big barrel, and then they put these different staves in there. So they call it the oak bill, which they put in 40% oak staves, 40% ex-bourbon cask staves, and then 20% sherry cask staves. So the taste on this should be really, really sweet because there is such a high volume of the French oak staves. Mm-hmm. So we should get a lot of sweetness off of it. And it does, definitely does smell that way. Well, anyway, again, thanks for coming.
Cheers. Thanks for having me.
That's not bad.
Not at all.
I have I've been out with a cold, so forgive me. Just getting back in the saddle, but that's my first pour in a while, and that's actually really, really good.
Yeah, I like it a lot, actually.
They have a whole different in this collection that they do different, kind of just change it up a little bit. So anyway, that is a fun pour. Like I said, that they on Saturdays in their tasting room, they have out back, it looks like you can take sledgehammers to all their old barrels. And you just get that broken barrel. They get to just smash up the barrels.
Oh, that's neat.
Bree's cousins were going to go down there and pick this stuff up in person. And by the time they got there, they were already closed. So, anyways, they seem like pretty cool dudes. Like I said, I started following them on Instagram a while back, and they seem like they have a pretty good time with what they're doing. So enough about them because they're not here. Let's talk about you. For starters, let's just get into your professions. By day, you're with East Fork.
No, with Central Lyon.
Central Lyon. Sorry. And so you've been there for how long?
It's July, almost July now. So a year and 3 months.
And what do you do there?
I'm a firefighter paramedic currently, and then I will be promoted to captain here the second week of July. Okay. July 10th, actually.
Okay, so not quite yet, Captain John.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Soon to be, as long as I don't mess it up.
All right. You got to be cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's exciting. Yeah. So what does that entail?
Basically, it's a promotion. So, it's for the lay person out there. It's like a sergeant, pretty much. So they have a crew, or we have a crew. So the station captain is in charge of anywhere between 2 and 3 guys in our department. So they oversee everything. They're usually the one that stays back for the initial suppression response in case the ambulance is out. But they're the ones that arrive first on scene. They make the big decisions up top or right out the gate as far as tactically what we should do or how we should approach different things. They're usually on the radio a little bit longer or a little bit more than the rest of the guys. But basically the oversight there to make sure all the pieces are going in properly. Those are for incidents. On a day-to-day basis, they're just, they don't do much. The firemen on the line level just they carry most of the weight and do most of the jobs and tasks around the station and everyday station life. But there's a certain amount of just oversight. Sometimes you feel like a parent sometimes, which I can wrap my head around, like just to make sure you keep all your excited guys and wrangled in and, task oriented and keep them in there. But it's, all in all, it doesn't feel like too much until it has to be.
Yeah.
A lot.
How many people are you overseeing at any particular time?
So you kind of break it into companies for most fire departments. So you have, the station company, if you will, but you have engine companies, you have rescue companies. So on the engine, you see a fire engine full of 3 guys. So one's a driver, one's a captain, the other is a firefighter. And then you have your rescue crew, which is an ambulance. We call our ambulances rescues. And there's typically 2 guys on that, or 2 guys or girls. But because of the model that we have, we're not a traditional city department. We're rural, and we have, I would say not minimal, but less staffing. I'd argue minimal, but where we cross staff our apparatus, our wheels, basically.
Okay.
So apparatus are your fire engines, your trucks, your brush rigs, your ambulance, your water tenders. Those are all apparatus. So on any given day, there could be 4 of us at the house, and 2 of them are dedicated to the rescue because we're what we call an ALS response. So they're responding to all your 911 medical calls, and they're transporting people to the hospital. So if those 2 guys or girls go to a medical call and now they have to transport to Carson Tahoe for whatever reason, which is a local hospital in our area, then those two firefighters are out for an hour and a half on any given day. And it just depends, wrap that into, 5 to 10 to 15 calls a day. So that's how long they could be out. So now you have the captain or, the senior guy there with possibly another firefighter, not all the time. Sometimes it just boils down to the captain or, the senior fireman, and they're back for additional medical aid if they need to. So they'll go make first contact with the patient, or, should something go down, whether we have a structure fire, then they're on that engine and they go respond as the suppression unit or one of the suppression units that are going to respond to that. And then it's just a matter of how many people we have on the rig at the time is how we tie into either other companies that are in the district or whether we have enough to start making work on our own.
Okay. Do you watch any of the fire reality shows, like the paramedic shows or Chicago Fire or all that, any of that?
No.
I was going to say if there's any
dramatizations.
Yeah.
Not a whole lot. I mean, if you get into like an actual reality show where they're following a fire department, then yeah, there's a certain amount of reality because it is. That's what they're following.
Yeah.
It's probably sugar coated to a certain degree as far as the reality show goes, but the dramatization shows like Chicago Fire, whatever other shows are out there, they do their best to try and make it reality, but it's really not. And we could probably, that would be fun. I think one of the other social media guys does it, and they'll show like certain clips of that show, and they'll walk you through each part of it to show you what's bullshit and then what's laughable. So it's fun, but it's not made to wrap your head around what would be real life. It's it's a drama, it keeps you engaged and keeps that mind spinning. So
yeah, because Bree watches Fire Country, and it's about like like camp work, camp firefighters or something like that.
Yeah,
it's pretty interesting, but so much bullshit. But a lot of the stuff, like the terms they're using or the techniques and stuff, I always just wonder if there's any sort of, they got to be consulting somebody, you would think, but you look at like a lot of the military movies, and that's what they're doing. They're somebody's out there helping them work, like how to clear corners and all that stuff.
Right.
So anyways, I was just wondering if you'd seen any of that.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of it. I'm sure they are consulted because they can't get to where they're at without at least talking to somebody or having been in either watched that sort of situation. But there's a certain time where like the creative minds get together. I'm like, okay, that's too bland, or that's really dark.
Right.
Even though it's dark humor, like we're not going to go there.
Right.
And then they, that's where they branch off. It's like a choose your own adventure book.
That's right. Yeah.
How cool do we want to make this? So.
What is the typical shift look like for you guys? How does that work?
So we cover basically from Mound House to the edge of Silver Springs, the east and west markers there. So the Carson and Lyon County border, out to the Churchill Lyon County border, out towards Lahontan. North, we border Story County, over the hill, USA Parkway, and then Fernley. So the Fernley City cutoff, because it has its own fire department.
Oh, okay.
And then south, it's the Wabusca, basically the Wabusca border. So that's, we cover about a little over 600 square miles. And then that is broken up into basically 4 fire stations. So just recently, they passed a tax bill that allowed them to do that. It passed with some overwhelming yes or positive vote towards it, which they actually got national attention because it's never really been done before. So they were able to, so basically what they did was they increased their tax base, whatever they pull their funds from, by a certain percentage or a certain dollar amount that enabled them to hire more firefighters, hire more medics, and open up 2 additional stations.
Wow.
So our 4 stations are Dayton Valley Road, down there by the golf course, off Highway 50 there. Dayton, which is on Highway 50 right there by the Smiths and Fortune. And then you have Stagecoach, which is another 10, 12 minutes down the road, and then Silver Springs. So each of our houses, we have 13 firefighters on a day. That includes 4 captains, minimum of 3 paramedics, and the rest are filled with firefighters. And then we've also been one of the front runners on what we call a single role paramedic, which is not a firefighter suppression qualified person, but basically it's like your ambulance paramedic.
Okay.
So they're able to run calls, and what that enables us to do is to keep an extra firefighter in the district for suppression, for vehicle extrication, life safety kind of stuff. Gotcha. So we'll run with a max of 13 and a minimum of 10 firefighters. So it seems like a lot, but in the firefighting world, especially with where we're at, it's not at all. Like, because let's say you take a minimum of 10 and you tone out 2 medical calls, that's 3 to 4 people, 3 to 4 firefighters that you don't have. Like, they're out of the equation. They are committed to that patient care, to that 911 call. So that leaves you 6 in the district, and a structure fire pops, and now you have 6 guys, and it just depends on where they're at. If you get a west side on a Dayton end call, or a couple of them, and you're stripped as far as manpower goes down there, all your response is coming from the east side, all the way from Silver Springs, from between a 10 and 15 minute response. And of course you have, help from neighbors, Carson City, Fernley, Story County. It makes it challenging, but that's what we're running with, and we're doing a good job.
So do you guys, when you guys, so you have somebody in the ambulance, everybody goes to Carson Tahoe, or how does that work with you guys being so not near Carson?
Yeah. So out there, we like to say that, or really we'll give the patient the choice of where they'd like to go. And it honestly depends on the call, the nature of the call. Okay. So how sick are they? And then whereabouts are in the district we are. So we transport to Renown a bunch. We'll transport to Northern a lot. We'll transport to Carson a lot. And, occasionally we'll transfer to the South Meadows down there, to the Renown South Meadows. Most of our transports go to Carson because technically it's the closest hospital for us. So especially if there's a critical call, we're going to Carson. We have to get them to, definitive higher level care as soon as possible. So sometimes they don't get a choice because of how sick they are and how fast we only have a Pelican box about this big and a little monitor that we can, shock people's hearts with and get blood pressures and things like that. So there's a very minimal amount of tools that we have in order to help people out in their, some of their sickest moments. So we need to get there and we need to get there quick. So, if that's Carson Tahoe, great. If we can afford it and we think that it's not as critical, we'll go to Renown. We'll go to wherever they want. But a lot of that's left up to the medic discretion.
Gotcha. How did you get in to doing what you're doing now? I mean, what sparked all this?
Oh man, that's not a long story, but I grew up thinking I was going to be a cop, and that's what I was gunning for. Always wanted to be in the Marine Corps, and my mom, bless her heart, she said that she was going to wake me up in the middle of the night and break my ankles if I joined the military. I believed her because she was crazy. So I didn't, but at a very late age, I decided to do that. Got out of the Marine Corps I won't get into details, but I got medically discharged basically.
Because you were down in Camp Pendleton?
Yeah, I was. Nothing major in the long run I ended up finding out about. It was bittersweet, but started pushing back towards the police department. Well, the problem for the police department for me was I got some really bad advice, and my character wasn't quite as grown up as it is right now, and started to leave certain things out of the police department application. Super, super dumb when you from a 30,000 foot view, for instance, smoking marijuana, right? Never done it, never did it. I'm not like everybody else, try and paint this picture, this picture perfect portrait of yourself when you're trying to talk to the investigators. When, it's so funny, it's cliche because they tell you now, just tell the truth, man. It doesn't matter. Just get it out there and let them decide for it. And you're sitting across from a guy who's been doing it for 20, 30 years. They, don't bullshit a bullshitter, basically. Right. So, long story short, big black eye of that, really hard to recover from, but I started making progress. I took a couple years off. I was bouncing around with jobs and stuff. I had gotten married to Aston, had a kid, had Chloe. And I was still pushing for it. And I was making, headway, but I wasn't quite there. And finally, I went back to an older department that I had applied with. They really liked me, and I really liked the department, Oxnard. PD, heavy hitters out there, always busy. My packet made it to the chief's desk, and they were all gunning for me. They're like, this guy has made a big turnaround. He's not the shitbag that he looks like on paper. We've all sat down with him. Just made some silly ass mistakes. Just give it a shot. And I think the chief looked at it at the time, compared to a couple of the other applicants that were there, and just basically viewed it as paper, a paper comparison. And in the trash I went, or really on the list I went to go basically expire. I had my hopes up, and I remember getting that letter saying not this time, and that was it for me. That was fuck, man, what else can I do to try and make this come true, And I was working in restaurants at the time, making good money, but I was working 60 to 80 hours a week, just answering phone calls all day and night, just scratching my eyeballs out, trying to figure out how I could provide for my family and at least have a little bit of tangible, goodness out of what I was doing. And I went into a pretty dark place there for a hot minute, and really it was my wife that started to lead me towards the fire service. A couple buddies of mine, my brother had dabbled in it as far as the EMT stuff. My little brother, As far as the EMT stuff goes, he wasn't a firefighter at the time. But my wife's like, why don't you be a nurse? I'm like, absolutely not. Nope. Like, I see what you go through all day. Like, yeah, it works for you, but I'm not wearing pajamas for my entire career for another 5 or 6 years of wiping butts just to get a cush job in California. I'm like, I'm not going to do it. It's not challenging enough for me, at least for what I saw from it. Right. And it's a hell of a challenging job. Now that I can see it on a daily basis, like, my props to the nurses and the ER nurses
just dumping off there.
Yeah.
So and just a quick note that his wife, and how long has Aston been a nurse?
Over 12 years now. Yeah. But she was getting her nurse license when we met. So we've been together for 15 years now, or married for 15 years. So she's like, well, why don't you be a firefighter? And I go, oh, okay, well, maybe, haven't really considered that. Firefighting was always my little brother's thing, and I was going to go be a cop. So I started talking to my buddies, did a couple ride-alongs. I'm like, man, I dig this shit. This is cool. Like, this is awesome. So, I talked to my buddy out of LA City. Said, what do I need to do? He's like, you need to go get your EMT. I'm like, yeah, I can do that, no problem. Signed up at the community college, local community college down there, and did that. Passed it with like a 98%. I'm like, cool, got my EMT. Like, can I get hired yet? He's like, oh man, are you of this descent? Are you of that descent? Do you have this skin color? Are you female? Of course, I said no. Yeah. And he's like, cool, man, you got about 8 years. I'm like, well, fuck. Here I am again. Now I'm going around in circles. So about that time, I'll try and make this a little shorter, but so around that time, Aston was looking for a trauma nurse job. That's what she wanted to do. She loved the blood. She loved the guts. This is what she wanted to do. It just so happened that her mom had moved to Palomino Valley from Montana to go hook back up with her high school sweetheart. Oh. So she sold her place in Montana, moved to Palomino Valley, and that's when Renown came up. And so Aston started to research that. She actually got a job offer over the phone, but she wanted to go look at it first, which is unheard of. Now we realize why she got, the job offer. Not only is she awesome, but they starve for people. So, and we flew in. It was early May, I think, to go look at the place, and it was a hot summer. It was like, I think it was 2015 or 16. And we flew in, and I look out the window, and I'm like, nope, there's not a beach in sight. And it's brown, and I just checked the temperature. Like, no, we're not going to do this. So anyway, so we get there, and we go check it out. Well, their family friend was now retired, the chief up in North Lake Tahoe, Mike Brown. And, I got to rap him with him a little bit, knowing his status, not only in the community, but the state and probably nationally at that point. Mm-hmm. So, hey, Chief, like, what? I'm really digging this fire stuff. What do I need to do? He's like, well, you need to go get your medic because you're old as fuck. That's what he told me. I was like, okay, how do I do that? And he's like, go down to TMCC, it's a local community college here, go apply to their medic program. Once you get your medic, you're probably a golden ticket. No. All right, well, okay. So I go down there, I apply. Little did I know that I was riding on his coattails without even knowing it. Super humble guy. He was on faculty there, and he was a fire chief of North Lake Tahoe. He was on multiple advisory boards for the state and the nation, and I got in. Like, long story short, but I got the acceptance letter on a drive back home in end of May, beginning of June, and we were up in Sparks July 4th.
Wow.
Into medic school in August. Spent the worst year and a half of my life ever, and I've done some pretty shitty things. I will never do medic school again, even if they paid me extra to do it. But got medic school, and then went through my internship at Carson, my paramedic internship at Carson, and absolutely head over heels fell in love with the fire service. So I have those guys to thank, especially one of my best friends. He wasn't at the time, but we clicked, and our families ended up really good friends. And then basically vetted my way through the internship at Carson, and I was picked up with Carson City in 2018. So it was long, but super short at the same time. But all my decisions, right, wrong, or indifferent, landed me here in the position that I'm in today. So, I don't live with, oh man, fuck, I should have done this, I should have done that. Like, no, man, like, I got a cool life, I do a cool job, I work my ass off, and, my kids are seeing the fruits of our labors, and, that's all I can ask for.
So when you guys are, with your guys' work schedules. How often do your guys' schedules actually line up here in Athens?
Right now, very rarely,
Yeah.
and it's on her because she's taken the per diem route, so she kind of makes her own schedule. And she really has paved the way for me right now to kind of do what I need to do, and what I'd like to do. She was on contract there for a little while, so she was working full time. So I kind of stepped back a little bit, let her do her thing. So it's kind of a yin and yang, give and take.
Sure.
But right now, she sends me a list of days I can work overtime, and I'll sign up for them all because there's certain things I need to accomplish and want to, dive in feet first, especially with a new department, just to be able to learn the ins and outs, learn the district, learn the calls, learn the way they do things. So right now, very rarely. We'll go I'm off for 10 days, and so is she here coming up. So
okay, so you guys make it work every now and again.
We make it work.
Yeah.
We do what we got to do, and the Jackson's football season's coming up, so that is an absolute time grinder. And then Chloe's horse schedule is just ridiculous right now.
I was going to say, you have 2 kids now, and both very active,
Right?
And dedicated to what they like to do. Your son plays any type of football that he can. Pop Warner, right?
Yep.
He does flag?
Pop Warner and 7-on-7, which is
that's right. Yeah.
That's
right.
And then he did the All-Star, or not the All-Star, the travel team.
That was
over
the thing
summer.
up in Reno?
That was that's the Texas games that we went down to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
So it's good times though, man. It's good to see them, the 2 kids both in their element of something that they love to do that they can eventually turn into a wage earner, some sort of life that they can carry on. That's fine. That's, if you want to do it, go for it.
And then Chloe, with her horse thing, she's barrel racing.
Yeah.
And is that I mean, that's all I really, when Aston post up, that's her jam is barrel racing. Yeah. And so that takes you guys some places too.
Yep. Yeah. It's taken us all up and down California. It's taken us down to Vegas, and we're starting now to look out of state because for the little pocket of a league that she's in, or what she's trying to qualify for. If you don't qualify one spot, you got to go try and qualify for another, in another place. And so it just depends on who puts them on. So now we're looking at Idaho, we're looking at Utah, we're looking at Washington, different things like that in order to try and make that happen for her.
It's a cheap sport.
Oh yeah. Super cheap.
Yeah. So
I just look in my change jar every now and then and see if I can pay for whatever I could pay for.
Yeah.
It is not cheap. Which is, between, the life that we've built for ourselves and then what we're trying to accomplish for our kids. That's why I work so much. So,
and hopefully, I mean, that's one of the things I really do like to try to hone in on every one of these is, that the people that come on the show, I mean, every single one so far has been a parent, and very uniquely, wildly different aspects. There's single parents that, on and off. I mean, there's always something. I mean, parenting is in itself such a grind. There's so much to it, and I just always like to try to capitalize on the fact that everybody that I've had on here not only is doing all this really cool shit, but on top of that, they're doing one of the hardest jobs known to man, and that's being a good parent. So very good for you.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Good. And then I guess one of the other, before we get too far away from your, I know looking back, you had this really, you kind of touched on it earlier, but a life-defining position at the Bellini Osteria as the manager.
Oh, yeah.
And did that, do you think, shaped you in any sort of way? You were there for almost 3 years?
Yeah, I was there for quite a while, and I went in as part-time as a server, and then ended up making my way to manager. I don't know, I wouldn't say that was life-defining. It was just another job, but we did some good stuff. I learned the ins and outs. I learned what it took to run a small business at that time, and really crunch into what really goes on outside of the corporate world.
Yeah.
So that was where I got my dose of a more rounded manager or leader, if you will.
Gotcha. I found that on your LinkedIn, by the way. That's the
is
only
that
reason.
right?
Yeah, that's the only reason I know about that. Yeah.
No, it was Bellini is like, I wouldn't call it a blip or per se, but it was definitely an eye opener because they did things a lot different, and then the owners were full Italian.
Yeah.
So there was a culture shock for me, and to get over, like, it was fun because things got, like, you felt like they were getting super heated, but it was just the way that they talked.
But, yeah, just animated.
So,
yeah.
So I mean, we can talk about the doodles that go in the pasta, and all of a sudden they start screaming at each other. I'm like, holy shit! Like, are they gonna throw down right now? But no, it's it wasn't really life-changing. There was a couple things that happened around that time that I started to gravitate towards. A buddy of mine that I went through boot camp with, I went through boot camp with him. He was on the Marine Corps Recon unit. So we spent all of 3.5 months together every day through boot camp, and then I saw him every now and then, in training and stuff. I didn't go the recon route. I was regular infantry. But he died. He got blown up in Afghanistan in 2011. And for whatever reason, man, that left a gigantic impact in my life. I didn't realize how much of an impact he was to me, indirectly, both directly and indirectly, until he died. Chloe's middle name is Jordan. She spells it a little different to keep it on the feminine side, but it's still a namesake for him. It was crazy. Like, I didn't realize that it would have that much of an impact, but it did. I still wear his dog tag, or the one that his parents made today, just as a reminder. Keep the grind going.
Yeah.
It could stop at any time. Yeah. So make what you can out of it, and it helps keep me grounded in certain times. But yeah, I mean, this restaurant-wise, Bellini not so much, but just the events that happened in and around that time, I would say.
Did you, if I remember right, you ended up in Hawaii for a little bit?
Yeah.
How was that?
It was a blast.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't traumatic, but it was like, we ran out of money really quick. But what was promised to us never came to fruition, so that's why money ended up not being there. But it was a lot of fun, man. Yeah. It was an experience. I was working. We got talked into selling all of our shit. Chloe was still brand new baby. So she was born in April, and I was on the island July 1st.
Wow.
So that was the decision. That
just sold all your shit.
Yeah, well, shipping stuff over there is a lot of money. So between our best friend and Chloe's godfather and us, we combined all of our stuff and sent it over there. But yeah, we moved over there. I was working for Harley Davidson over there at the time. I was selling motorcycles and used cars, believe it or not. Yes, I'm a used car salesman.
Yeah, he is.
But yeah, it was fun. It was a good experience. This Aston didn't work. We realized that her working would just be covering the daycare bills for Chloe. Yep. So the two of them had a blast. Aston really got along with the locals, found the farmers markets down there, and found a good way of life. And she learned a little bit of cooking skills there, which I thought was really cool because she's not a cooker. But she got that quality time regardless of how crazy the kid made her. Like, that quality time with Chloe. That I think every parent, every mother needs and looks forward to. Yeah. So that was cool to offer that opportunity, whether she liked it at the time or not. Like, it's got its own weight to it. Yeah, but then things didn't turn out. Like, a few days after we got there, the buddy that we were in the Marine Corps with, him and his dad were kind of running the place over there, he left back to California. So we're like, see you, dude. Like, have fun with whatever drama you have going on. So, and then a short period after that, the GM that was there just got into a mess of his own issues and ended up going to California, not coming back around probably Thanksgiving time-ish, a little bit before Thanksgiving. So now we're here. We're promised, X amount of money a month, and I'm seeing a fraction of that, and I have a brand new baby, and I have Aston to take care of. Trying to figure things out, we're losing money like by the day, and so finally there's a couple things that happened that I ended up uncovering, just sniffing around and taking some things weren't adding up financially with the way that things were happening, and I found it, and I'm like, look, I talked to one of the vice president, I think it was, and I said, this is what I believe to be going on. I said, you guys can do whatever the fuck you want to, but I need to get home. I need to go back to California. So how are you going to make that happen? He's like, well, how much of a big deal do you think this is? I'm like, it's not going to be a big deal if I get to go home and I don't have to pay for it. And so we went home. We came home December, middle of December. So we were home for Christmas.
Wow.
So, but it was fun, man. It was an experience. It was when we all had good tans.
Yeah.
A buddy of ours came out of deployment or off deployment to Afghanistan. He was a corpsman there, so he got to come and hang out with us free of charge. I think we paid for his plane ticket to get over there, if I remember right. So he was able to just chill out and hang out. So, it served its purpose. Mm-hmm. That's for sure.
It made part of the story,
Yeah, exactly.
How you ended up here,
Yeah.
So let's fast forward a little bit. You guys end up here. So first time you come to Nevada, you think to yourself, holy shit, this is a knit chief, right?
Yeah, I wasn't sure about it.
I mean, it's been nasty hot, and I can see a lot of people, I'm not liking it, and I've been here for 40 fucking plus years,
Right.
It's been nasty gross. But how long did it take you, do you think, to kind of adjust and go, you know what, I think this was a really good call?
I mean, almost, well, I would say it solidified when I got the fire job.
Yeah. That helps.
But I mean, we went through some trials and errors before that. Again, like I went full time into school. It was three days a week, and probably, like I said, like it was 3 days a week in class, mm-hmm. but it was close to like 24 plus or minus hours a day studying. And for me, like, there wasn't a succession, there wasn't a progression there, because you have 3 levels of EMT, your basic, your advanced, your paramedic. Mm. I went from the first level to the top level without having any experience in between. Mm. No anatomy, no physiology, nothing like that. So I was behind the game. So, doing that, having a part-time job, serving tables in downtown Reno. My wife was working she was working nights at the ER, doing her thing. And then having 2 kids, it was a mess. Mm-hmm. But it started to calm down a little bit. Things started to fall into place. And like I said, man, like once, it doesn't matter how I felt about the place, I absolutely love it here now. But seeing the way that the chips fell and things fell into place the minute I decided to go into the fire service, like, this is home. Mm-hmm. And I never liked California to begin with. Never got along with anybody there, which is probably why I was just lost as far as my direction went. I love the beach, don't get me wrong, but California can suck it as far as I'm concerned.
I was right out of high school. I tried to go down, and I went and lived in Oceanside for maybe over a year, mm-hmm. right? And it was just like the people fucking sucked, But I mean, the beach was badass. Surfing was badass, Just it sucks because when you're out there on the water, it's like, dude, this is all right. Mm-hmm. But then you come back inland, and it's like, fuck this,
Yeah.
My truck's getting broken into every fucking night, and watching my neighbor get the ever-living piss beat out of him by a bunch of Mexicans. I mean, it was just like, it was one thing after another, just absolute dog shit, and the place is a shithole. But some people really like it, and they can stay there. That's fine. Somebody's got to, Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, good. I'm glad you made it here.
We attached to it right away, to be honest with you. Like we knew that we were outsiders, and like the outside, like the Nevada and the outsiders coming into it, we kind of cued in right away. So we tried our best to be the good transplants. But we acclimated right away, and we understood what it meant to be a smaller community, because I was from the military, or Aston was working in the ER. Like, we understood, I wanted to be a cop, or a firefighter at this time. Like, those are smaller knit, like camaraderie based, mm-hmm. Organizations. So we understand the small unit aspect of it, not necessarily a small town feel, because we hadn't experienced that quite yet. But again, once we made it from Sparks to Carson to now Minden in Douglas, like we're not leaving until the kids grow up and go. Like, fucking love it. Mm. Like, it's our speed, it's our kind of people, it's our kind of color as far as the state's concerned. Red or blue. Like, the beliefs match up with ours. The community's awesome. It's everything that as long as you can appreciate the small town aspect of it. Regardless of, what are we, 55,000 right now ish?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So there's smaller towns out there, but it still has that small town feel. Mm-hmm. So, it's good.
Good.
It's a lot of fun. There was no looking back.
Good. Good.
So
I was going to ask you about Chloe, because she would have been so young when you guys. She probably does. She's never doesn't really know the difference. It wasn't like I mean, Bree came here when she was 13, I think, and absolutely hated it. It was like the worst day of her life, but worked out for me,
right?
And for her eventually, it just took some time, know. But yeah, so your kids, obviously Jackson only knows this, So, all right, I wanted to talk more too, because you're also coaching Jackson's team, right? When all this football stuff that he's doing, well, when you can, what on top of your daily grind, on top of all the other bullshit, like what kind of dedication is it to be a good? Because you were the head coach, right? Of his Pop Warner team, right? Yeah. So what's that entail?
It's a grind, but it's just that, if you sign on the dotted line, as far as the coach is concerned, especially the head coach out here for Pop Warner football or, any sort of Pee Wee football, like you got to be there, so we make it work. Last year I took some time off in the beginning just to make sure that we got things where they needed to get as far as my coaching staff went. Peter was one of my coaches. We got the direction in the right place that allowed me to take a step back if I needed to be on shift for a certain period of time. It's usually just 2 days at a time. It's just a matter of where it marched out in the week. Like I could be working Wednesday, Thursdays one week, and then Tuesday, Wednesdays the next week, and so on and so forth. So just kind of looked at it as far as our schedule went. We kind of manipulated the schedule early on in the season, so all the parents knew ahead of time that some days would be practice these days, other days would be practice these days, and we let it out right away. Like, hey, this is what we do.
Because you already knew what you had going on,
right?
For the most part,
right?
Okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
This is what we do for a living. These are the caveats to what could take me away. Wildland fires, things like that. That could take me away, but rest assured, like the coaching staff is all on the same page. They know the direction that we're going with, and trust be had in them to carry out a practice. But I got hurt, so actually it lined out really well. So I ended up getting a hernia and had to go in for surgery for it. So over the course of that time was basically my surgery to recovery time. So I was able to actually be more hands-on in the last season than I probably will be for this season, but I'll still make it work out because we're not playing for Douglas this year. We made the commitment up to Reno, and a lot of that stemmed from the postseason play that he was involved with, and then some personal decisions within the family and a bunch of talks, and ultimately we left the decision to Jackson as far as where he wanted to go. But long story short, Wooster offered me the position up there for head coach. So we'll be playing Jackson Reno on the 10U team up there, and I'll be coaching with a guy that I made friends with. We talk about logistically a grind, like and adding injury to insult or insult to injury, like that's what we just did. So, but we'll make it work. Jackson said, Dad, I just want to be a firefighter or I just want to be an NFL football player or a firefighter. I'm like, well, fuck, kid. Like I can pretty much make the latter half of that come true for you as long as you keep your nose clean. Like, I can do that, no problem. So why don't we do what we need to do to make your other dream come true? If you want to be an NFL football player, what do we need to do? What trainers do we need to put you with? Who do we need to reach out to in order to make that happen? And man, he's just been crushing it. I'm so
it's fun to watch.
Beyond blessed to have the kids that I have, and I'm not comparing them to anybody else, but Chloe with her barrel racing and the dedication that she has to that, I don't know where their focus comes from. No. They definitely don't get it from me, because at this age, I'm just like, I just want to party and just hang out with my friends and play Nintendo and fuck off for all day, and not these two. Chloe wakes up, she thinks about horses. She wants to know when she's going to ride. She wants to know how long she could stay at the ranch. Jackson wakes up during football season about the same time I do, around 6 or so, and he's already up. Like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm looking at plays on YouTube. So, to me, and I'm not saying he could be today's stud and tomorrow's, dud. Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen?
But he's got the fire.
But that's the type of shit that you see right there that greats are made of.
Absolutely.
Those are the Tiger Woods.
He's got the talents to do it too.
Yeah. And again, Jackson has talents right now that I wish I had as an adult.
Yeah.
I keep telling people that. Yeah. So if I can facilitate the ability to get him better and get him in the right places at the right time and keep driving him, I may not know the game of football very well. I may not know the game of, or the sport of barrel racing very well. What I do know now, what I'm comfortable with now, is the mental game.
Yeah.
You know, because it took a fuck ton of mental game to get me where I'm at right now and to keep going from where I'm at now to where I see my future and the job that I hold and what sort of, you know, mental toughness and resiliency you have to have there. Like, I know that. So if I can teach them that at a younger age and let that morph into their own values and their own grind, then I think that we're doing okay.
Good.
So
on the subject of him wanting to, as plan B, become a firefighter, do you want more?
Sure.
What would you say to somebody like maybe a high school kid right now? Mm-hmm. He's still interested in becoming a firefighter. What would you say are the best steps to kind of start making that happen?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, get involved. Do the departments out here have volunteer aspect to it? I know that we do. You know, you got to get your EMT no matter what. You got to get your go. So go to school. You know, if you're still in high school, find a program at night that you can go to through the community colleges. Go get your EMT basic.
Is that all transferable? I mean, like, if it's not by state.
Nope.
Okay.
Well, so it's a nationally recognized certification that you carry your state certification with, and once you're into a state, for instance, like once I got hired on with Carson, I could choose whether to carry my national certification or just keep it as a state recognized certification. Okay. I didn't, and that's just in case you needed to take, like, you decided to move somewhere. So like my buddy did, he moved to Tennessee. He still had his national recognized certification, so he was able to take those CEs or classes that he had to take in order to keep up that certification. He took that over to Tennessee. Tennessee doesn't necessarily recognize Nevada's per se, but they'll recognize the national portion of it. So as long as you can keep that, you can move anywhere you want to.
So is there, and so once you have, so what would you benefit from having the state one versus, like, is there anything to it? Like, will you just keep your national one, and I mean, that'd be fine? Yeah.
So right now, like for a high school kid looking to get it, like, they would go through their class, they would take their national registry, which is the national part that I was talking about.
Okay.
And then from there, it divvies down to state based on your job. So you can get that nat reg and you can go apply in Utah, or you can go apply in Arizona or whatever as an EMT, and then you'll get their state recognized certification, and then you carry both, because each have their own requirements for continuing education.
Okay.
And this, I'm just throwing numbers out there. Like Nevada State's continuing education might be 20 hours in certain categories, like throughout certain categories, whereas nat reg, or the national part of it, is like 48 hours in a bunch of different categories. So all the national enables you to do is move across the country.
Okay.
So the states have their own shit to it.
Gotcha.
So I let my national go, because once I moved to Nevada, I knew I wasn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
So.
Well, then you start paying into retirement, and it's like,
yeah,
we're going to just stay here.
Exactly.
Well, good. Yeah. All right. Well, it seems like, I mean, we have a couple of friends whose kids are, you know, a little bit older, and they're looking into it, and that's one of the things I just wanted to kind of touch on, because I think a lot of people would probably. So for me, when I was younger, watching on the volunteer side, people coming in, and then they'd try to test, but I don't know if there's like volunteer hours for. This is for East Fork.
Oh,
so I don't know if there's anything if that's different or.
No, there's not necessarily for us. There's not a requirement, but. You know, so EMT's the first thing you need to do just to be considered to have your foot in the door, just in order for a lot of these departments in the area just to even test. So, you know, a lot of people say go take the junior college fire academy. Mm-hmm. You know, like, not necessarily. Like, it may look good on paper for certain people at certain times. For instance, like, you'll come out with what they consider a firefighter 1 certification out of TMCC. It's a fire academy program.
Okay. All
that allows you to do is basically get hired and go to work right away in certain agencies, right? It doesn't mean that, you're better than anybody else as far as even on paper. It just means that you went through TMCC's Fire Academy and you got a Firefighter 1 cert. You're still going to have to go to a Fire Academy. Okay. And for this area, it's the Carson Regional Academy. And you're going to get your ass whooped, and you're going to get you're going to get mentally fucked sideways, and it's basically like a boot camp. You still have to go through that. I don't care how soft TMCC was on you. Like, you're still going to go through this our 14, 16 week academy, and I don't care if you have a Firefighter 1 or not. Like, you have to cut it here, and if you do, great. You can move on to your respective departments, and you can go be a firefighter. Okay. But just get involved, go talk to the different fire departments, reach out to a firefighter, and pick his or her brain about that. Anybody around here is more than welcome to come talk to me. Like I've been involved in the Carson Academy since before the first year of my probation was up at one point or another. So I was teaching classes and teaching the new guys how to, the recruits how to do different sections or different drills, all the way to running one of the academies about a year ago or so, year and a half now. And, walking people through that hiring process, the interview is one of my favorite parts of it. And I've sat down with a handful of guys, and each one of them have come out pretty well on top, just because of the nuances that I've been able to find. Like, I've been a business manager before. I've went through these situational questions, what do they call them, SRBOs or something like that, like situational response behavioral questions. Okay. that you try and ask an applicant in order to get out not the closed-ended answers. It's a very open-ended question for an open-ended answer. So walking through that with them to the point where I was like, well, maybe I should make a business out of this, but like, I have too much shit going on right now.
Yeah, not right now.
Just approach me individually and we'll go through things. But yeah, reach out, try and, start researching the department, try and figure out which ones, attract you. Go talk to them. Go do a ride along. Find out if it's what you really want. Because some guys are like, yeah, firefighting's cool. And then they realize that the ambulance sucks and it's not something they want to do. Right. It's something that they suffer with, or maybe you really like the medical part of it and you want to be a firefighter, paramedic, and you want to spend time on the rescue, nerds. But go experience that, and then hopefully you'll get a cool call. And they'll be able to see a shitty call at the same time. Be like, absolutely not. Like, that is way too much blood. That is way too much shit. That is way too much, whatever the case may be. Like, no, I don't want to subject myself to that day in and day out. So you get a very big, the earlier dose you can get out of it is where you can decide whether or not you think it's going to be long-term for you or not. And then you can talk yourself through it and talk with someone else and see how your brain processes that.
Gotcha.
So, and just, right up front, like, just get exposed to it, because we see shit that no human being on the face of the planet should ever see.
There's, a time when I was looking at there was like the emergency response team for NDOT, and I was thinking, that'd be an interesting job. Not that I'd want to ever be a firefighter, paramedic, but within one accident, I was like, and I just saw the blood trail, and I was like, no, I don't need that. That's not for me. So it does take a special person that's to have to show up first on scene to bad shit like that. Yeah. And so, I know that some of the stories that I hear from even nurses, it's just like, what the fuck? It's always like, everything is always what the fuck, Yep. There's like nothing ever like super like normal run of the mill,
Yeah.
It almost makes the all the doctor shows seem normal, It's just like, what the fuck? So on another note, I mean, the show we do try to focus on the tail end of it, talking on the ballistic side.
Yeah. So when I worked for my last agency, I got hired outside of my normal duties as a firefighter, paramedic. I got picked up on their SWAT team as a tactical medic. Okay. That's basically a SWAT medic.
Okay, thank you.
So on their team, you're sworn in as a reserve deputy. So you're deputized, you carry, and you're attached to the team, and you're basically an operator first, and then you render medical aid as needed. Like, you're there as that ancillary support with your paramedic capabilities, and we train to both sides. So that was super fun. Like that was that you talk about like pivotal moments that kind of culminate everything.
Yeah.
Like when I raised my hand for both firefighting, and then 2 years down the line I raised my arm and swore an oath on the law enforcement side of it. I was like, yeah, like this is literally everything I've ever wanted to do.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of it was both like euphoric and like frightening at the same time, because you're like, is this all I was meant to do? Am I gonna fucking die now? Like, you know, like but it was a lot of fun. And so when I switched departments to my current one, they don't have that per se set up.
Okay.
But I switched over, and I am now a reserve deputy with Lyon County Sheriff's Office.
Okay.
So going through that portion of it, it's a learning curve for me because we weren't on patrol as SWAT medics. Like, we were just attached to the special side of the things. Mm-hmm. So now I'm learning the regular patrol stuff.
Interesting.
And, you know, so it is a learning curve for me, but I'm soaking it up. It's a lot of fun. A lot of good dudes that work. A lot of good guys and girls that work out of Lyon County. So I'm just trying to catch up and get spooled up on that side of it. Eventually get signed off on the patrol side of it, and then we'll see what happens from there.
Yeah.
So we'll see what sort of opportunities lend itself.
What kind of dedication is it? I mean, as far as time-wise, for the reserve side.
For them, it is they ask that you put in 12 hours a month, so it's a shift a month. Okay. So some months get a couple of them, some months don't get. Like, I was gearing up for the captain's test, and I'm like, I can't. Like this is not my full-time job. I need to learn it. I understand that, but like, this is the rest of my career move right here. So I need to dedicate myself to this. So, which they totally get. One of the other guys there does the reserve, is also in the fire service as well.
Oh, is he really?
So he totally understands.
Good.
They've been super cool to me. So yeah, 12 hours a month is what they ask you to do.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. And what does that mean for your agency? What on the reserve side? What does it take to become a reserve officer? What are they asking of you?
Anything that normal sworn, like a full-time sworn deputy would. So application, background check, background interview, polygraph, or voice stress analysis test, whichever the agency decides to do.
Okay.
Background investigation. And then, after that is they'll for a reserve. The way I did it was it's the reserve basic is an online component, is a digital or an at-home component. So you'll study, and then you'll tie in with the state. The state will give you a test. They'll unlock the test for you, and then you have a certain amount of modules to go through. And then whoever you're sponsored through the agency it's their responsibility to go through certain modules like defensive tactics, shooting, tasers, things like that.
Gotcha.
But yeah, the process is pretty much the same as it is for a full-time until you get to the academy portion of it.
Okay.
So if you're a full-time deputy, you're going to or officer, law enforcement, you're going to an academy sponsored by your agency. And around here, it's down Ensign Carson at the state, and it's like a 16 week live-in academy. Because I had considered doing it, but not if I'm going to live there for 14 weeks.
Right.
Can't do it.
That's tough. That's a big ask, especially where you're at in your life right now.
Yeah. So
cool. I guess with that, after you got to try on the Broken Barrel. What's your takeaway from it?
It's good. I can sip on this.
Yeah.
I have been shit.
Yeah, it's not bad. I'm glad I found it. I'm really curious about it. Can you see what that is back there? I'm trying to remember what they finish it in. I don't remember what the hell that one is. Peach brandy staves. So that one. Yeah, so that was probably pretty fun too. Yeah. I just figured we go with just something a little bit more run of the mill. But yeah, we'll break into that at some point too. But yeah, it doesn't drink like it's for a 115 proof.
Yeah, not at all.
I've been coughing, but that has nothing to do with the
no, it's actually really, really smooth for 115.
I'd say you have the opportunity to tell people where to buy your calendar. But I don't think you have one yet, right?
No,
they haven't made you one.
No, they can't hire me though as an auto detailer until that business goes outside.
Okay.
So
yeah,
no
right.
calendars.
Okay,
yet.
and you don't have, social media or anything like that. So there's nothing we can't come find you unless we're gonna come see you out out working, or hopefully. If they're calling you, something's wrong. So hopefully they don't see you.
No, yeah. My number's out there just because I do have the auto detailing business. So if anybody ever wanted to reach out to me, if they have, siblings, sons, daughters, husbands, wives that are interested in the fire service, or you needed someone, your car detailed, 775-360-0208.
What's the business called?
Fully Involved Auto Detailing.
Okay.
So
cool.
Yeah.
And you do have a website?
Nope. It's just through. I'm up on word of mouth. I couldn't support getting myself out there. You just needed
one more fucking thing to do.
Yeah, exactly.
You son of a bitch.
Nah,
yeah.
Peter keeps me busy, so that's about it. Just it was a hobby of mine that I turned it into a business, and it pays for the extras is all it does. So. And
are you still currently out? Getting any range time?
Yeah. I try to as much as I can, whether it's through the department or through the office or, out on my own. They cut off the BLM shooting a little bit sooner than I had hoped this year. But yeah, I like to get out and go as much as I can, especially since they just approved me to carry my old firearm, old sidearm. So
that's nice.
That was rad.
Good.
And they approved me to carry that one. So yeah, between that and looking at purchasing a new rifle, I think. Through basically that mirrors the rifle that the SWAT guys that I was working with, they carry.
Oh.
So through I think it was Franklin, they carry the 5.56 platform with mid-range gas tube and the OSS suppressor on it. Good setup. So I'm looking at purchasing one of those.
Right on.
Yeah.
Good.
So
you can use some extra some money for some detailing. So get some detailing in there. So
yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Well, John, I think that's about it for me, bud. I do definitely again want to say thank you, for swinging by and finally making it work. You definitely have a lot of cool things that you're involved with, and family first, which is super awesome. Watching your guys' entire circle, the amount of dedication that you guys have to your children, like. Unbelievable, for what you guys do for your kids. So it's definitely noticed and appreciated, I'm sure, by your kids. And
yeah, so I appreciate that.
That's very
man.
cool,
and I know that they do too. So I'm just trying to help them live their best life.
Both very good kids. So you guys have done a good job. Even with all the hectic scheduling and all the sports and all that stuff, they're still very grounded and very good kids. So
appreciate that.
Yeah. On that note, is there anything else that we maybe missed or didn't get into enough? Do you have anything else?
I don't know, man. I'm sure we can sit here and rap for another hour or so.
It's easy, yeah.
Yeah. But that was fun. That was the first podcast I've ever been on, and it's just like sitting here talking with my homie.
Yep.
So it was fun.
Well, good.
So yeah, I appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming. And I want to thank you for coming, hanging out with us for another episode of the Bourbon and Ballistics podcast. I invite you to check out more on Instagram and YouTube over at Bourbon and Ballistics Podcast, and TikTok and Spotify at Bourbon and Ballistics. Do me a favor, tell me what you thought about the episode. Go ahead and comment and like it if you can, and that's going to definitely help us beat the algorithm, and it definitely helps me grow and improve the show, so I definitely appreciate it. Appreciate you guys taking the time out of your day to sit down, hang out with us, and hopefully enjoy a good glass. Broken Barrel, you did a great job. Cheers.
Cheers.